Do you want to kick it off, or do you want me to kick it off?
You can kick it off.
It's my show.
Yes.
All right, today we're talking about marrying a famous person. What would that be like? Would that be a good thing? Could it be a bad thing? Spending during COVID, this was a topic we talked about tackling a few episodes ago, and took us, 5 or 6 episodes to finally get to it. We're going to just discuss, are we actually spending less in COVID or more in COVID? Talk a little bit about boredom, and is it okay to give yourself permission to be bored? With cell phones these days, or smartphones, I think we are generally not bored anymore. There's always something to shove in front of our face. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we have a couple other topics that we don't know if we'll get time for, so we'll save them in case we do. And we're in your backyard.
Yeah,
Again.
this is another episode where it's coming, we're taping this in my backyard.
It's not a tape, it's a digital recorder.
Oh, sorry, digital recording. Got to get with the times here. But yes, we are in the backyard. It's a lovely Friday afternoon. We have excellent weather. We have beer in hand, which is very important to point out.
Today's episode is brought to you by Stella Artois. Over 600 years of Belgian brewing expertise brought to life in a beautifully balanced lager. And Heineken.
Yeah, I've got a Heineken in hand here.
Premium malt lager.
Yeah.
I don't, someone said to me, how did you swing that Amsterdam Belgian ale sponsorship on the last episode? I said, we didn't. I just read the side of the can.
Jeez, I guess anything could really sponsor us for that matter.
That's right. This
Brought to you by Aquafina.
Or the umbrella that is shading us from the sun.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I want to also remind viewers that anyone can send us feedback to wetalkedabouttthis99@gmail.com. We love to hear feedback, topic ideas. Heck, if you think you might want to even be on the show, you can go through a very simple audition process, and maybe you will be on the show. We've had a few of our listeners end up on the show and become regulars and great contributors. So if that's something that interests you, let us know. Also visit our website at wetalkedabouttthis.net, although it is a little bit out of date. My wife actually keeps the website updated, but the episodes are not up to date. So find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. You'll always find the most updated episodes on there. So
yeah, and that's a good point you raise about asking our listeners to offer contributions to topics that we can discuss. Because, yeah, with every episode, we rack our brains thinking of stuff to talk about. Some topics are better than others, but a lot of the topics that we have discussed over the last few episodes have been contributions from our listeners.
Right. That's
and
right.
They've been excellent topics. There's stuff that sometimes we haven't thought about. So I've received a few suggestions recently.
Have you shared those with me?
I will shortly.
Okay.
But yeah, we have received some really great topics, so keep them coming. We want to make this interesting to our listeners, relative. As I said, if you get some great topics, we'd love to hear it.
Yes, absolutely. And one of our regular listeners, Andrew, who gave me permission to use his name on the air, has been a great contributor and a bit of a sounding board as well for the episode. So, Andrew, thank you for your ideas, and keep them coming. This episode is brought to you by Pace Painting. Pace Painting, serving all your painting needs, whether commercial or residential. Reach Pace Painting at paintwithpace@gmail.com or via their Facebook page, Pace Painting Inc. Or call Peter at 289-356-7744. Paint with Pace. Okay, marrying a famous person. So I was in the car the other day, driving along, listening to music on Spotify, and I think it was an Ariana Grande song. And I'm just going to pick her just because that was what made me think of it. I don't know if she's married or not. She might be, and she's a lot younger than me, so it's not like I was actually going to be able to marry her necessarily, but I did imagine for a sec, okay, what if you met someone like Ariana Grande, or maybe more in my age bracket, Natalie Portman, and you hit it off, and you started getting to a point where maybe you're going to potentially date this person. And I started to ask myself, what would that mean? You know, how would my life change for the good, and how might it change for the bad?
So I think we need to kind of, I guess, clarify this in that you're talking about marrying an already existing famous person.
Yes.
Because there is obviously there's differences in the sense that, let's say, your spouse becomes a famous person.
Right.
Either, let's say, in the entertainment industry, or they become a famous writer or politician. If you knew that person when both of you were, shall we say, bunch of nobodies,
yeah,
then it's a whole different story because you're accompanying them on that journey.
Right.
But yeah, I guess what you're trying to say here is that if you're marrying someone that is already a famous celebrity.
That's right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And that could be another topic where what happens when you are with somebody and they become famous while you're in the relationship, and what does that do? So, yeah, for the purposes of this, it's about you meet someone famous and happen to hit it off and actually start dating and so on and so on. Maybe even get married. And the idea also it came across when I watched, I think it's Lady Gaga has a documentary, and I think in that she talks a little bit about relationships. And I just started thinking, like, okay, if I got married or got into a serious relationship with a famous person, what would that mean for my career? What would it mean for my lifestyle, my day-to-day? Like, the first thing that jumps out at me, okay, positives, financially, that could be very good in that, okay, suddenly I don't have to worry about income anymore. However, wait a minute, if I'm in a relationship, I'm like, what would I do? I work for a financial institution. And let's say Lady Gaga, just for as an example. I meet her, we start dating. What do? Do I tell my friends about it? Do I tell my work about it? Do I quit my job? Like, what would the conversation with her be about that?
Yeah, that is so many different possibilities as to where that could go. And I guess it depends on the person. If you're married to someone like a Lady Gaga or someone in the very high profile person within the entertainment industry, in some ways your lifestyle obviously would be greatly changed, but depends on how much you would want to accompany them if, let's say, they're on location or if they're on concert tours. Some people, on the other hand, want to have a very separate and private life from that famous person and have their own careers. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's still a number of, Hollywood celebrities, Hollywood actors, or singers that have their spouses that are very private individuals. You don't hear from them. They have perhaps their own separate careers.
Yeah.
I'm kind of off the top of my head, I'm thinking that people like Matthew McConaughey and I think Matt Damon, they're married to people that are non-famous or are famous only by way of their marriage, and it's because they appear at, Hollywood red carpet events.
Right.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think their spouses are famous people in their own right. I guess they focus their attention on raising families or charitable activities. When you question, if you were to marry a famous person, how would your life change? Would you work? I don't know. Would you want to work? I don't know if you would be working for a paycheck. But if you had that financial flexibility, then maybe you are in a position to do the job that you always wanted to do, to be able to start your own business or do your own consulting, carve your own career, get involved with philanthropic organizations, charities. So there's so many things in which people can do, and I'm, we'd have to maybe research a little bit more as to what, if you take a look at each Hollywood celebrity, who they're married to and what they do for a living, that would be kind of interesting to see that.
Well, that's another thing too. Most famous people, when they date somebody or get married to somebody, usually are quite successful in their own right. Like if you take someone like Erin Burnett, she's a CNN anchor. She's married to like some high-ranking city group financial guy, like a CEO, not the CEO, but like very big job, senior guy. Probably met her at some event. He's got clout in that sense. Like he's meeting this CNN anchor woman, and like the CNN anchor women, I don't think they're interested in guys like us. They're interested in people like that. They're interested in people that are running the foreign operations of Citigroup or the North America operations, and are probably very, very successful in their own right.
Well, it's true. You're going to socialize within your own circles, I suppose. Yeah, I would expect someone like a CNN anchor to be hobnobbing with I guess, successful business people within those particular social circles.
All right, well, let's hold on. So there's a couple ways to tackle this. Number one would be the financial part. So you're like dating this person. Well, you're not going to quit your job. Like, would you say to this person, hey, I can't work in my current job with the amount of level of fame that me being in this relationship brings. So what would you do? Would you work out something like, okay, well, while you're dating me, I'll give you some money, or you just live off my lifestyle while you're here, and if things don't work out, you just go back to what you're doing before? Like, what happens then?
And not to sound, well, I wouldn't say chauvinistic, but from a man's perspective, speaking as a man, it would be, as a man, I would want to have my own career. I wouldn't want to just like stop working and live off of or sponge off my famous spouse because she happens to have a lot of money.
You consider that sponging?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. If all you're doing is just sitting around a pool looking pretty.
This beer, by the way, is not very cold.
Oh, okay.
This Heineken's kind of warm.
Well, it was in the fridge.
Yeah, for how long?
Yeah, but maybe you put it in the sun or something. I don't know.
It's not the sun. You didn't. How long was it in the fridge for?
A long time.
Like a long time, 5 hours or half an hour?
As in like several days.
Yeah, well, you better get your fridge looked at. Okay. You were saying. Okay, sponging off somebody. Like, is that sponging off somebody if you're simply...
Okay, so just because my wife has money, I wouldn't expect to be able to quit my job and do absolutely nothing. I guess that's the angle in that I'm looking at it. As for my own self-fulfillment, you'd want to have some purpose in your life. You'd want to have a reason why you get up in the morning type of thing. As a spouse of a famous celebrity, maybe that's raising a family, getting involved in charity. I would think that, yeah, as a spouse, you would need to sort of bring something to the table and not just kind of live the high life, living off of their big paycheck that comes in. I don't know, that's just my take on it, in that I would want to provide, I would want to have something that defines my life and not be defined as the husband of,
No, I
Lady
agree.
Gaga or something like that.
I agree. That I would want to have some pursuit. Perhaps the pursuit, depending on the development of the relationship, could be around supporting my wife's job. Maybe I become her agent, or I become her business manager, or I handle an aspect of the business. Because a lot of these celebrities, as they become successful, they're almost like companies, right? And so maybe I'm part of the machine of Lady Gaga somewhere. I'm the event coordinator or some job, maybe.
Become part of the entourage.
Yeah,
because I know a lot of these people have large entourages of people.
Yeah, but okay, what's an entourage? Is that just people that walk around with them, or do they actually do something?
Yeah, hangers on. So I should watch that show, Entourage. I'm sure that would explain a lot.
I've heard of it, and I've seen clips, but I've never watched it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the financial piece, which I'm not sure if we've concluded what we would actually do there. What about the attention that the individual gets? So this is your wife. Let's say it's your girlfriend. Let's say you've been dating for like 6 months. Lady Gaga. And everywhere you guys go, there are screaming fans and paparazzi clamoring for their attention, and you're sort of just pushed off to the side while she gets all the attention. How would you deal with that?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. That's what keeps National Enquirer and People magazine in business. When you hear about all like the Hollywood scandals and all of the Hollywood marriages and relationships
Gaga's
that break up.
spouse shoved aside while career flourishes.
Yeah, well, I think isn't that why Taylor Swift is another individual that seems to go through a lot of relationships? I guess it all depends on the individual. Depends on your, if you're a jealous type. Some people are fine to be in the background and don't want the spotlight, whereas other people would have a really tough time with that. And especially if you're someone that is trying to break into the business yourself. Let's say if you're a fellow actor or something like that, and you're maybe become jealous of your girlfriend or spouse that have become an overnight sensation or a household name. I'm sure that can definitely tear apart a lot of relationships where the jealousy just kind of, breaks it up down the middle. So that would be completely dependent on the individual person as to whether or not you would be comfortable with that.
Well, I think that explains why a lot of the celebrities get into relationships with other celebrities. They who do have strong established careers. They know what the lifestyle is like, and that's probably why a lot of relationships wouldn't work out between someone who's super successful and someone that's kind of floundering.
Well, it depends, because there are some Hollywood celebrities like the Taylor Swifts, like the Jennifer Anistons that seem to be in relationships with a lot of other famous actors. In the case of Jennifer Aniston, dating people like Brad Pitt or whatever. And there are people that haven't had a lot of success. Someone like Julia Roberts, for example, married a guy, I believe he's a camera operator, someone, just obviously connected to the film industry, but someone who is not famous. Yeah. And that's been a very successful relationship. So it all depends on the individual person, I guess.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of going back and forth here, but I guess it really all comes down to it depends. All right. It depends on the person.
Okay, well, here it is. Could you marry or be in a relationship with a famous person? Like someone who is already famous, you meet, and she's just like I described earlier, getting all this attention. Every time you go to a restaurant together, she's hounded by autograph seekers, paparazzi. Could you be in a relationship with a famous person like that?
That's a great question. I would like to think that I would be able to be good with that. That, yeah, if you're obviously truly in love with a person, you have a great chemistry with them, that you would be able to deal with that kind of dynamics within that relationship, knowing that you're not going to have a quote unquote a normal night out. However, yeah, I would like to think that I would be fine with that, but until you're there and until you're experiencing it, you don't know. You and I have absolutely no comprehension as to what that lifestyle would be like. Jet setting all over the world, and red carpet events, and having paparazzi take your photo, and not having a moment's peace. No privacy. Like you go out to a restaurant, or you go out to the store, and you're having someone taking your photo. Yeah, that would just be so weird. Like we wouldn't be able to comprehend what that would be like. And there is extremes to that. So, for example, members of the royal family, people like what Princess Diana had to deal with during her time in the royal family, where every single moment she walked outside into any public areas, there was dozens of photographers capturing every single moment. There is literally no privacy whatsoever. I think if it got to that point, that would be terrible, and that would be a very, very tough situation.
And it's nasty too, right? They come at you with like absolute gloves off venom. Yeah, looking at like something to come at you with, whether it's something that's happened in your past or they make up things. to stir up issues or cause problems in your relationship. I mean, I have thought about the fact that here we are sitting in this backyard right now. If I was famous, I couldn't do this. Like, Michael Jordan can't sit in a backyard in Whitby and not have like people peeking over the fences and taking pictures of us, because they're going to know I'm here. They would know he was here, right? Because there's people following these guys everywhere. So just being able to go to a park, go to some normal, whatever you want to do type average place, and not have somebody like that's craziness.
Yeah, and I guess that's why a lot of Hollywood celebrities tend to live in the same areas, like places like Montecito or Malibu in California. Maybe that's really the only places they can go where they have some form of privacy.
Yeah, or they get lost in big cities like New York, where the ability for celebrities to kind of blend in is a little bit easier.
But we do underestimate the day-to-day privacy that we all enjoy. Like, if you're someone like a Tom Hanks, you can't walk into a Walmart.
Yeah.
You can't walk into like a Starbucks and grab a coffee without being recognized or someone wanting to take your photo.
Yeah.
You'd have to really disguise yourself. And what if you don't want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And some of them do. I guess they throw a ball cap on and some sunglasses. But I think we tackled this episode, not you and I, but Ed and I talked about this, I think episode 18 or 19. We talked about, would you ever want to be famous? And we talked about the whole walking down a street and having somebody jumping at you or running into you and wanting to sign their autograph or take a selfie, all these different things. And it sounds glamorous. It sounds fun. I think it's one of those things I'd like to try, but then if I didn't like it, I could pack it away and forget about it.
Yeah, and there's also the other thing too, where if you, depending on what your role is, you could also have a loss of privacy for the wrong reasons. So, for example, I saw in the news that the mayor of Toronto, John Tory, he was, I believe a couple of days ago, him and his wife went out for dinner and were sitting out in a patio. And some guy came over and started harassing him and shouting at him because he was angry about anti-lockdown and blaming him because a lot of businesses have been suffered during COVID shutdowns, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And apparently, I didn't watch all of it. I just kind of saw snippets. But apparently this interaction lasted for like 5 to 10 minutes or something like that. So if you're a mayor of a city and you want to just go out for dinner with your wife, and you're having to deal with stuff like that, where you get some guy coming up harassing you at your table, like that's an example where being a celebrity is not a good thing. Where you're notable for the wrong reasons, and you have angry people coming at you. Never mind photographers.
Well, here's politicians, but that's politicians too, right? Like, you have to have a certain. I've said that anybody that wants to be a politician has to be not right in the head in so many ways, to be hated by more than half or more of the population, to no matter what you do, you're always doing, it's not the right thing. I can't imagine anybody who's of normal mind wanting to be in a job or situation like that. Yeah,
it is a tough job. And well, for example, Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, he had demonstrators many times outside of his home protesting against lockdown measures. How tough would that be? Like, if you have a tough job and you want your weekends to yourself, you want to go out in your front lawn and cut your grass, and then you have like 30 people demonstrating in front of you. Yeah,
but that's part of what you decide to get into if you become a politician. I think it's a little bit less so with sports. Like, if you're a sports celebrity, okay, you just want to do your thing, whereas a politician is actually, they know going in that's part of the job. And I guess if being very good at a sport and being a professional sports player, it's going to have an element of that as well. But politicians, I feel a little bit more, it's deliberate in the sense that no politician can say they went into it and found this like lack of privacy thing, can't say they didn't know that was possibly coming. So, I mean, for me, I'll say could I marry a famous person? I think if I really liked what they did, Like if they were involved in something that I really enjoyed, like I really liked their music, I liked the movies that they acted in. I want to say I could handle it. I think I could do it, but I think it would depend. I couldn't do Lady Gaga, for example. I couldn't be married to her. No, that's too much. It's too much. Someone sort of not lower rung in terms of success, but I'll take Natalie Portman, and yes, I do like Natalie Portman. I think I could be married to Natalie Portman and manage my life based on that, and I would not feel that I was being shoved off to the corner. I could accept it. I could accept it.
Yeah, I would like to think that I'd be in the same boat as well, that I would try to and sort of go into that relationship with an open mind, knowing full well that the person that you're dating or marrying is someone that is much more famous and much more successful than you are. You kind of need to get past that and realize your place in the relationship and not let jealousy or anything like that sort of creep into it. So, yeah, I think most of our listeners would probably say the same thing, that everyone would like to think that they would go into it with an open mind. It all depends on how successful or how much your privacy would potentially be infringed upon. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's interesting to think about it. That's for sure.
Spending in COVID. I hear a lot of people talking about doing things. I hear a lot of people making financial decisions based on the fact that COVID has, let's call it, saved them money in other areas. So a lot of less people are not traveling as much during COVID, and they're maybe not buying as many clothes. Like I haven't bought dress shoes in 2.5 years. I haven't bought a suit in a couple years. I haven't even worn dress shoes since the pandemic. Like, there's many things I'm not spending money on. And so I think there's a feeling right now that because we're saving money in many areas, that it's okay to spend it in others. And what I would like to talk about is when people use that excuse, well, I'm spending less money on traveling or whatever it is, so I'm going to now buy this. I wonder in the end, are they actually coming out further behind when if you actually did the math, if you actually pulled someone's bank account information and said, okay, you haven't traveled in 2 years, so you saved, X number of dollars. However, your justification for spending on other things actually equated to spending X. How many of those people would actually be shocked to find that, oh man, I saved all this money in this one area, but then I ended up spending more because the feeling was I was spending less money.
That's a great point, and I think if you really did the math, and I would love to be able to have some kind of data in front of me on this, but I bet you most people probably, yes, have saved money, but probably not as much as they think they have. And it's interesting the point you raise about a lot of people spending money and justifying it because of saving money on COVID related or non-COVID related expenses. Even in my own circle of friends, I know a lot of people who have installed swimming pools, people who have bought trailers or cottages up north.
Yep, me too.
That seemed, well, especially last year, that seemed to be a very, very popular thing to do is making that investment in like a trailer or within some kind of a resort up north somewhere, being north of Toronto within cottage country. Just to give some context for those not from Toronto, cottage country is what we call cottage country is about maybe 2 to 3 hours north of the city of Toronto. Mm-hmm. For me personally, looking at my finances, yes, the answer is yes. I have saved money by not commuting as much.
That's the other one. That's the commute.
Yeah, more so my wife, because she's not having to go into the office as much. We haven't spent as much in terms of, we didn't go out and do as much stuff, like not as much eating out at restaurants. Your entertainment budget has definitely reduced. You're not going out to the movies or going to shows anymore. You're probably, as you said, you're not buying as much clothing as you normally would.
Yeah, and if you're buying alcohol, you're probably buying it from the beer store or the liquor store, which is going to be substantially less than what you might pay if you were out at a bar or a restaurant.
Yeah. Like, I don't have anywhere close to any kind of figures in my head, but I know for sure that I have saved money by virtue of the fact that I have been able to, tackle some debt. I know that over the last year I was able to pay off a lot of credit card debt, line of credit debt. So I've been pretty successful in doing that. So that has sort of been my measure stick in terms of saying, yes, I have saved money. So when you raise the point about people justifying large purchases, such as a swimming pool, by saying that, well, we've saved a lot of money due to COVID. Yeah, that's great that they have, but don't forget, this is only a very temporary thing.
I was going to say, the pandemic is going to end at some point, and will people be able to be satisfied saying, no, I won't be traveling for the next 5 to 7 years because I decided to make this investment in something like a cottage or a swimming pool? So I don't know, and this is the thing, I don't trust generally people to this responsibility. This is where I think, and this could be another topic, is there's too much credit available in our society that banks will hand out money very willingly, more than a lot of people could afford, to finance a lifestyle that they probably can't really afford.
Well, and it's easy to say that, okay, well, I'm going to invest money in this cottage because I'm not going to be traveling anytime soon. However, maybe not this year, but certainly next year when things continue to open up, the allure of saying, wow, it'd be nice to do a trip down to the Caribbean or take a trip down to Florida or Disney or whatever, that will start to creep in. So it's interesting to see how people that have sort of tied themselves to a certain lifestyle or commitment by investing money into a certain thing, such as a cottage or whatever, how that's going to change in 2-3 years from now when life returns back to normal. At least we hope it does.
Yeah.
And they have this commitment to this property that they've purchased. So it will be very interesting to see how things pan out over the next couple of years, I suppose. But when it comes to making these big purchases, I suppose if people have the money, then I guess you might as well go for it, as long as you're not putting yourself into debt by purchasing these large expenditures.
I like what you said. You're using the opportunity to pay off some debt, which I think it may or may not be happening in all circles. For me personally, I have to say I don't know if I know there's things I've not purchased, but I don't know that if I did the math, I'm not confident, to be honest, that I've saved overall. I don't have any benchmarks. I don't have a barometer. The other big difference for me is that I lived in Japan for the last 3 years. What we spent our money on a year ago or pre-pandemic was based on living in Japan, living where my wife wasn't working, so there was no income coming from her. Now we're both back. We're both earning income, so it's very difficult to know whether we're ahead or so if someone actually came in and examined our bank account, I wouldn't put any substantial amount of money down that says that I've spent less. I think so, but I wouldn't bet on it.
But the interesting thing is that people who may have saved a little bit of money due to COVID and have taken on these large expenditures without taking advantage of some of the opportunities to pay off debt, or heaven forbid you put money into your RSP or just to put money in the bank. Yeah. That's something that gets overlooked very much so, is what's wrong with just saving some money instead of having to spend it.
Do you think this topic's going to rattle some cages?
I don't think so. I don't think we're being disrespectful here. If someone has the money in the bank to spend, to make a purchase of spending it on a cottage or a swimming pool, then good on them for being able to do so. I just hope that they're not putting themselves into debt by doing so.
Are we being preachy?
I don't know, maybe. I don't want to be preachy.
Okay,
but
so
it's food for thought, though. People
Yeah.
do need to think about this type of thing because, yeah, you're right. It's a big expenditure if you're going to go out and buy a swimming pool or if you're going to go out and buy a motorbike. And yeah, there are some things that you can, at the end of the day, once the novelty wears off, you can always go and sell it, but you can't sell off a swimming pool. So I just hope that people have really thought this through and understand.
we're raising awareness, right?
We're raising awareness. Yes, that's sort of where we're going at on this
and
one.
everybody's situation is personal and private and their own doing, and they can we're all adults here. Most of our listeners are anyway, so we're just raising the question. COVID. Let's just, while we're talking COVID, are you comfortable, Paul, getting back into the activities that are now becoming available to us, like attending sporting events, going to take your kids to extracurricular activities, going out to restaurants, possibly returning to the office? Are you comfortable with everything that's now slowly coming back to us in terms of, even traveling places? Are you comfortable with everything, or are there some things you're a bit hesitant on?
I think the short answer to that is yes, I am comfortable. It's every episode we always say, we try not to talk about COVID, but how can we not? And especially now, it's now we can talk about COVID in a positive light, knowing that things are starting to open. So this is actually a good conversation we're having here. Whereas this time last year, this was a very, much, a topic that was still very much distant and far away. Especially
and so much ahead that we didn't know was coming even. And now we have a lot of rear view mirror that we can look back on.
A year of perspective.
All right, so let me ask you, are you comfortable? So today, I know a band that you like, The Killers. I saw a notification that The Killers are coming to Toronto September 23rd. I'm a big fan. I saw they were going to go on sale, and I thought for a moment, would I like to go to that concert? And I have to say, I decided not to purchase tickets. I'm not comfortable going into an arena in September with COVID.
But hold on, that's September of 2022.
Oh, is it?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
so
right.
it's kind of comical that
I missed it then.
Damn
I could
it,
have bought
God.
tickets.
You're pounding your fist on the table here. Yeah, it's kind of ironic that you actually raised that question about raised the example of the Killers concert, because we actually did buy tickets.
You did, huh?
Yeah, my wife and I, we bought tickets.
Did you get good seats, or what'd you do?
Yeah, I think we got pretty good seats. It's a full year away. I find it always unusual when concerts sell tickets a full year in advance. That's very presumptuous.
Yeah, it's more than a year
and it's
away.
a long time in which they have your money in the bank collecting interest as well.
Yes.
But yeah, we did buy tickets.
It's almost a strategy. Hey, let's announce a concert a year from now. Collect this money. Now, I don't know if they get it or if Ticketmaster gets the money, like the ticket company. But yeah, wow, what an investment idea. Let's collect several $1 million of people's money, give them a guarantee that it will be returned, which is what it said. If the concert is canceled, you'll get your money back. But guess what? That's actually that's an investment idea. It is, yeah. All that interest that will be made, will I get my interest plus
14
interest?
14 months of interest. And let's say everyone spends on average over $100 a ticket.
Yeah.
14 months of interest on $100 a person. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's millions, right?
And think about how many concerts they're selling tickets for. Let's say 20, 30
bastards.
Concerts on their tour.
I hate Ticketmaster.
I know.
Okay, so you're comfortable.
Getting back to that,
what if
yes,
it was September 2021? Would you be comfortable buying tickets for that? And if not, why not?
I think I probably would. And the reason I say that is because the recent news here in Toronto is that the Toronto Blue Jays are coming back to town.
Yes.
At long last, the Toronto Blue Jays have been given approval to play at the Rogers Centre.
After spending the last 2 seasons in a mixture of playing in Buffalo, New York, and Dunedin, Florida. Dunedin's their home spring training facility.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I am very eager to be able to see the Blue Jays play. And 15,000 capacity has been granted for watching games in person at the Rogers Centre. And I'm very hopeful that I'm able to get tickets for at least 1 or 2 games.
Did you try to get tickets? Because they went on sale.
I believe it's just for this first homestand.
That's right. Yeah.
The tickets for the rest of the year have not been posted yet.
Yeah, and my birthday's coming up in August, and I would love to go to a game, August 20th.
You dropping hints there as to what you like for your birthday present?
I would love to go to the Blue Jay game on August 20th, which is my birthday.
Yeah.
And I'll be comfortable going because it's outside.
It is, yes, it is outdoors. But let's back up here and say that you and I are both double vaccinated.
Yes.
I think that makes all the difference in the world. If I was not vaccinated, I would definitely have some hesitancy. I would not be raising my hand to go to any baseball games or concerts or anything like that. But being a double vaccinated person, I am very confident and very at peace with going into large events. Areas where there's potentially several thousand people, something that still seems kind of foreign to us. We're still not used to being that. So the opportunity when we do get a chance to hopefully get to a Blue Jays game this year, being in a stadium of 15,000 people, it'll be a really weird feeling at first. But being vaccinated, I'm comfortable. I don't have much hesitation. I think common sense still prevails. I would like to think that with this Killers concert, which is over a year from now, by that time, COVID will be a thing in the distant past. If it was September of this year, I might have a little bit of hesitancy. I would think a little bit longer about that. I'll be honest with you.
I obviously didn't read the fine print. Actually, it wasn't even fine print. It was probably quite out there. I just assumed it was this September.
But in terms of COVID activities, though, stuff that we are now pursuing now that restrictions have been lifted. So, for example, traveling. Yes, I'm actually going to be taking a vacation next week. Going to Quebec City.
You're driving there, right?
We're driving, yeah. I haven't had any plane travel, but I'm sure air travel is fine. But I don't have any hesitation about doing any traveling at this point.
Would you go to Europe?
I think I probably would. Yeah. The only thing that would stop me would be depending on what potential restrictions are still in place. If I'm going somewhere, I want to make sure that everything is open and we're able to go into restaurants.
Yeah.
I think, well, and this is a debate for in itself in terms of COVID protocols, places in the U.S. where there's, well, even in Canada for that matter, where not even any masks are required. I would still be a little hesitant about completely taking off my mask in public places.
Yeah.
But as long as I think common sense prevails and you just are aware of your surroundings and you don't, as I said, I wouldn't necessarily, go to a party of several thousand people without masks. But I think for the most part, life is returning back to normal, such as going to see the movies. I'm looking forward to being able to go back to the movies soon.
Yeah, that's opened up now, right?
Yeah, all that's opened up. So it's nice to know that you at least have that option. Whether or not I go ahead and do it remains to be seen, but at least to be able to have that option to be able to go out and do stuff that you did pre-COVID and to be able to have a sense of normalcy again. It's such a nice feeling.
It is. So our kids have been in day camp for the past 2 weeks. And I'll tell you, just for them to go somewhere during the day and not be in the house has made things much better on the home front for my wife and I. I find I'm getting less aggravated. You know, I'm not constantly seeing them on their screens, and when they come home after a long day at camp, I'm totally fine with them being on their screens, and it's making it much easier. They come home with stuff to talk about. They leave for camp with things to look forward to. It's been a game changer. Like I said, if I had thought that concert was in September, which I thought it was, then I didn't think I was going to go. The double vaccination thing is a big factor. I agree. What I'm a little bit hesitant to, and a lot of these places are now providing these, you know, if it gets canceled, you'll get your money back. But I'm finding it difficult making plans when I don't know for certain if they can happen. That's getting to be less and less now because it feels like things are going to happen. But to book a trip, say in January, and you still have, you know, what's the chances it's going to get canceled? 5%, 15%, 25%. That planning around uncertainty is a bit challenging at times.
It is, yeah. There's definite challenges, and that's where, reading the fine print. I would not book anything unless I knew for certain that there was cancellation policies in place where you could make changes without any kind of penalties. Because, it's... Even though things are trending in the right direction, we still don't quite know where this is heading. And we like to think that lockdowns are a thing of the past, but who knows? Who knows? So here's a question for you. In certain parts of the U.S., there is certain states that have very, very low vaccination rates.
Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia,
38%.
Alabama.
I read that yesterday.
So here's a question. Would you want to go to a place like Georgia where the vast majority of people are unvaccinated?
No.
I would have a lot of hesitancy myself. Because even though I'm vaccinated, you just don't know.
I just find that it angers me in a lot of ways that to have a state that has 38% vaccination rate and knowing that the reasons for that are almost entirely political.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say, fuck you, Georgia. I'm not coming down there because you're not taking it seriously and you've got all kinds of conspiracy theories and all that. So no, I'm not going to places that have low vaccination rates. And I don't know any other states what's Florida's vaccination rate? Any idea?
I don't know. I'd have to
look it up.
I'll look it up. And
well, while you do that, let's move on to our next topic, which we've got. We tend to like to keep our episodes under an hour, and we're at 48 minutes here. So, and we do want to include a strange news story, but let's talk about boredom and whether or not being bored is okay. I found myself on the couch last Sunday feeling like, I got to get up and do some things. I should be working on this. I shouldn't be, like goofing around on my phone or whatever. And then I thought, wait a minute. What if we give ourselves permission? Do we give ourselves permission to be bored? Do we do that? And should we? And I think we should. We should say, you know what? Sunday, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to goof around. I'm going to be on my phone, or I'm going to be in the backyard, sitting on the lounger chair, having some beers, smoking some meats. So yeah, my question is, do you feel guilty sometimes about being bored? Have you got that Georgia stat or the
Florida stat?
Yeah, what's the Florida stat while you're looking at it, while you've got it?
So 48% are double vaccinated, 56% have one dose. That's still very low numbers.
Yeah. Because Florida's one place. One thing I'm interested in going to do in the U.S. is I really would like to see the Blue Jays in spring training. That's something I've always dreamed about, is going down there and seeing the Blue Jays in spring training at their Dunedin facility in Florida. Taking the kids to Disney World. They've never been. I don't know. As I talk about it, I'm just thinking it doesn't have to be now, but as far as affecting my interest in going to the U.S., yes, the vaccination rate does influence me. Back to the boredom topic. Do you give yourself permission to be bored? Like, do you have Sunday afternoons where you beat yourself up because you're not getting stuff done?
Yeah, kind of. I do. sort of fall into that where, I don't know, I guess it's kind of my personality where I tend to like to be busy. I like to have something, I like to be productive, something to show for what I did on a particular day, whether it's, doing yard work or something around the house or, and that can take on many different forms, whether during the summertime, if you want to enjoy the weather, it's being able to get outside or go for a walk or something. But yeah, what you mean by the boredom, where you're just kind of sitting around just doing nothing.
Well, there's also boredom versus just relaxing.
Yeah.
Because I think boredom is a bit of a different topic. Like, right now you can shove a smartphone in front of your face anytime you get any hint of being bored.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the concept, if we're talking about just boredom in itself, boredom is sort of an obsolete thing when you really think about it, because these days, if you're bored, I'm holding up my iPhone in my hand here, and you have entertainment, encyclopedia,
the news,
everything you want to know about in the world is literally at your fingertips. So yeah, the concept of quote unquote being bored, where you're just kind of staring at the walls, I don't think that happens anymore. Staring at the floor, like, it just doesn't happen, because either you're putting on the TV or you're scrolling through your phone.
Do you think our mental health is affected by that? Do you think we could use more boredom in our life, where we are standing in the line at the driver DMV office, dying of boredom, waiting for the person ahead of us to move up so that we can finally get served? Do you think would we be better served with a bit more boredom in our lives? Yeah,
probably we could.
I think we're constantly just taking in information.
Yeah, there's so much being bombarded on us, and a lot of it is negative news. Let's be honest, it really is. A lot of it is bullshit stuff, like stuff you see on Facebook, which really is pretty trivial, and a lot of
the
it
neighborhood
being,
Facebook pages. We got to do an update on that, because I have a bunch of stuff.
Should. Being bombarded with fake news. There's so much weird stuff that we are subjected to that 15 years ago we would not be dealing with this stuff. We wouldn't be looking at a cell phone. If you were bored, you'd pick up a magazine, or you would talk to someone. Heaven forbid you actually have a conversation with the person standing next to you.
Yeah. Instead of your nose buried in a phone.
Yeah. So the whole concept of boredom, man, that has really changed over the last 15, 20 years, where there is no such thing as boredom anymore. And that's not necessarily a good thing.
It's okay to be bored, folks. Be bored. Yeah. Enjoy it. Okay, moving on to weird news. You have a story there that you found. Why don't you share with us what you got there?
The weird news headline here is that man with coronavirus disguises as wife on Indonesian flight. And this is from the Huffington Post, so it is a reliable news source. So this actually did happen.
So maybe, but okay.
The context of the story goes is that the suspect purchased a plane ticket with his wife's name and brought the identity card, the PCR test, and the vaccination card with his wife's name.
And PCR test is what says that you have a negative COVID result?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So it can sum up by saying he bought a plane. So this guy actually had COVID, but in order to get on this flight, he bought a plane ticket with his wife's name, brought her identity card, the test result, the vaccination card.
Hold on a sec. So his motivation for doing this is because he knew he had COVID?
He knew he had COVID. He still wanted to get on this flight.
Jesus Christ.
So he dressed up as his wife. So I should point out here that his wife...
Did his wife know about this?
It doesn't say. Yeah, so he had a niqab, which is, I guess, the long dress in that culture. So
is that the one that's a complete
face was
cover?
I'm not sure. But yeah, he dressed up as his wife in terms of wearing his wife's clothes. And he had all of her identification. And the thing that threw him off was that police say a flight attendant aboard the plane noticed the man change into his clothes while in the lavatory on the flight. So I think that was probably his mistake, is that he should have just kept his wife's clothing on, and maybe that wouldn't have created any kind of red flags. But
so he didn't say where he was going? Like, how long was this flight?
Jakarta to Ternate in the North Maluku province. I'm not familiar with...
Maybe an internal...
Yeah, it looks like it was a domestic flight.
Okay.
So, yeah, then if it's a domestic flight, then it would probably be a short flight.
So why didn't he just,
just
his
drive?
mistake was taking the damn thing off.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Yeah.
And knowing he had COVID, I hope does it say what he's being fined with?
Yeah, I think he said the police did charge him. I'm not sure what the penalties are.
That should be severe.
But yeah, it's just interesting that the guy went to those extremes to be able to board a flight, to dress up as a woman, fake your identity, have all the credentials and everything, and then you blow it by changing into your clothes on the flight, and then people notice. Say, hey, where did that man come from?
All right. Well, it's been a great time here. Thank you for plying me with beers.
Yes.
I realized earlier I was criticizing you for the lukewarm Stella and lukewarm Heineken. Meanwhile, that was your beer, right? You brought out a couple Stellas for me and a Heineken for you, and
I did, yeah.
Who was I to criticize your Heineken? Temperature.
Hey, you don't criticize free beer, right?
This is yours. This is mine, right?
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, this has been again another episode outside.
I feel like Bob and Doug Mackenzie a little bit.
Yeah.
And those that aren't Canadian probably don't know who
Yeah, look it up.
is,
Doug and Bob Mackenzie. We're going back to the early 1980s for that one. But yeah, this was an outdoor episode. I did not hear any lawnmowers or dogs barking or children outside.
Quiet.
It was very, very quiet. So I would think that most people would probably have no clue that we're outside here.
You do have a neighbor that's probably looking over and saying, what are those guys doing? They must be famous.
I want to marry one of them.